My dad called me at 2 a.m. slurring, demanding $5,000. When I said I couldn't help, he whispered, "Then I guess I'll die, and you'll have that on your conscience." That was 10 months ago. Yesterday he texted me, "I'm finally clean," but I haven't replied. I thought I was finally free when I got accepted into my dream college. All the years of family drama, arguments, screaming, I thought I was done. But then my dad called me, his voice shaking. "Son, I hurt myself. Real bad. I need your help." Just like that, every bit of relief vanished. He told me he knew this was last minute, but he needed me to defer. He said his hand had been crushed in a freak kitchen accident. He needed me to step in for him and run the family restaurant. I stammered over the phone. I didn't want to, but he didn't budge. He said it like it was an order, not a request. He hung up before I even gave an answer. I remember being crushed, but, like he had always taught me, I tried to see the positives. I told myself stepping in was temporary, he was family, and it was just until he got better. I thought it would be months, maybe a year at most. Things started okay, business picked up, all while Dad smiled at first, told me I was doing him proud, but then something changed, and it changed fast. For some reason, the happier the customers got, the moodier he became. He started snapping at everyone, especially me. Mom was already stretched thin with her 2 jobs, and my younger sister Eliana started noticing strange stuff around the restaurant. She came to me one night after we closed. "He's hiding pills in the kitchen," she said quietly. I didn't want to believe her. Sure, he seemed off lately, forgetful and angry, but pills? It didn't seem like him. But soon I started finding them too. Bottles hidden behind spice racks, tucked behind bags of flour, even taped under sinks. The restaurant's books weren't adding up either. Cash kept disappearing. I felt sick every time I confronted him. He'd deny everything, tell me I was paranoid, that I wanted to take his legacy from him. It was crushing. All while this was going on, things at home got tense. Mom walked around exhausted and sad. Eliana barely talked at dinner. One night she knocked on my door holding letters from my college. "Mom's trying to sell the house," she said, crying. "With Dad taking the money from the restaurant, she thinks this is the only way you'll ever go to college." That hit me hard. My stomach dropped. And then a few nights later, the worst happened. We were slammed at dinner, tables full, kitchen buzzing. That's when Dad stumbled in. I barely noticed him at first. I was too busy. But then I heard his voice, clearly hammered, on something, and completely out of it. His voice was loud and slurred, telling everyone how I was trying to sabotage him, how I'd stolen his restaurant. People turned in their seats, whispering. My face went red hot. I tried to calm him down, whispering, "Dad, please stop." But he just got louder. "He's a traitor," he yelled. "My own son wants to ruin me." I was mortified. Mom stood frozen at the counter, eyes filling with tears, Eliana beside her looking humiliated. That's when I smelled smoke. Someone yelled, "Fire!" A towel had caught near the stove. I ran back, grabbed the extinguisher, coughing as I tried to get it under control. But through the smoke, I saw my dad, frantic, not helping at all. Instead, he was opening drawers, desperately searching behind shelves. He didn't care about the fire. He was looking for his pills. Everything felt surreal. People scrambled to leave, chairs knocked over, alarms blaring, and there stood my dad, totally checked out from reality. Firefighters helped us put the fire out, thankfully, and nobody got hurt, but the damage was done. At home, Dad sat in a chair, head in his hands, finally quiet. Mom took a deep breath, walked over, and looked him straight in the eyes. "I'm done," she said, her voice clear and firm. "Either you get help, or we're gone. All of us. This stops now." He looked stunned, like he'd just woken up from a long nightmare. Mom didn't blink or back down, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not anger or pride, just real fear. But as quickly as that fear came over him, it vanished. "I'm the man of the house. I do what I want," he shot back. Dad's eyes narrowed. "You think you know what's happening? You don't know anything." I stepped closer, finding courage I didn't know I had. "I know enough. I know about the pills, the money, the fire. I know you've been lying about your hand." He flinched at that last part, then quickly composed himself. "You're delusional." Mom moved beside me, her voice steadier than I'd heard in months. "We want you to get help, Frank. Real help." Dad's laugh was cold. "Help? I built everything we have. This house, that restaurant. It's all mine." "Not anymore," I said quietly. The rage that flashed across his face made me take a step back. He lunged forward, grabbing a vase from the side table and hurling it against the wall. We all jumped as it shattered. "You'll regret this," he snarled, storming out. After the door slammed, the 3 of us stood in silence. The broken vase a perfect symbol of our family. "He's going to try something," Eliana whispered. Mom nodded, looking suddenly older. "I know. We need to be ready." I spent the next day at the restaurant, trying to salvage what I could. The fire damage was manageable, but Dad's ransacking had done more harm. I was sweeping up broken glass when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email." I opened my inbox to find a message from Dad's account with a single attachment, a photo of my college acceptance letter with "Never Happening" scrawled across it in red marker. My stomach dropped. He was in our house again, going through my things. I called Mom immediately. She didn't answer. Neither did Eliana. I raced home, heart pounding. I found them in the kitchen, shaken but unharmed. Dad had come while they were out grocery shopping. He'd taken more things, family photos, Mom's jewelry, even Eliana's laptop. "He left this," Mom said, sliding a note across the table. In Dad's handwriting, "Everything has a price. Ask your son what he's willing to pay." The next day, I went to the bank to see if we could access any emergency funds. The account manager, Mr. Lopez, looked uncomfortable as he pulled up our information. "I'm sorry," he he said. Your father came in yesterday with power of attorney documents. He's removed your access to all accounts. That's impossible, I stammered. Those documents would need to be notarized, signed by your mother, Mr. Lopez finished. Her signature is right here. He turned the screen. There was Mom's signature, a perfect forgery. I left the bank feeling sick. Dad had always been skilled at copying Mom's handwriting for school permission slips when I was a kid. I never imagined he'd use that talent this way, to create a convincing forgery that could pass the bank's verification process. Back at the restaurant, I found Carl, our longtime bartender, waiting for me. His expression was grim. Your dad's telling everyone you stole from the business, he said. He's contacted all the staff, all the regulars. He's even talking to other restaurant owners in town. I sank into a chair. Is anyone believing him? Carl shrugged. Some are, some aren't, but he's convincing when he wants to be. That night, we held a family meeting at the kitchen table. Mom had spoken to a lawyer friend who specialized in domestic issues. The news wasn't good. Since Dad's name is on everything, the house, the restaurant, the accounts, legally, he has a right to access it all, I explained to Eliana. So he just gets away with it? She asked, tears welling in her eyes. Mom reached for her hand. No, honey, we're going to fight, but we need to be smart about it. We made a plan. First, secure what little we had left. Mom withdrew the small amount in her personal account and opened a new one at a different bank. I gathered all our important documents, birth certificates, social security cards, my college paperwork, and put them in a safety deposit box. The next day, I went to the restaurant early to meet with our insurance adjuster about the fire damage. As I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed a small crowd gathered outside. Customers, staff, even a few people I didn't recognize. In the center stood Dad, gesturing wildly as he spoke. When he saw me, he pointed. There he is, the thief himself. My face burned as everyone turned to stare. I pushed through the crowd, keys in hand, trying to reach the door. Don't let him in, Dad shouted. He'll just steal more. A few people moved to block my path. I recognized one as Eugene, a regular who always ordered the same steak dinner every Friday. Is it true? Eugene asked, his expression troubled. Did you cook the books? No, I said firmly. My father has a problem. He's not well, and he's lying. Dad laughed dramatically. See how he tries to discredit me? My own son. I finally reached the door and unlocked it, my hands shaking. Once inside, I locked it behind me and pulled the blinds. Through the window, I could see Dad continuing his performance, people nodding along. My phone buzzed with a text from Gary, our chef. Sorry about the crowd. Your dad's been at it for hours. Some of us know he's lying, but he's convincing. I thanked him and tried to focus on the insurance paperwork, but my mind was racing. Dad was systematically destroying everything. Our reputation, our finances, our family. The insurance adjuster, Susan, arrived through the back entrance. She seemed uncomfortable as she surveyed the damage. Your father called our office yesterday, she said carefully. He made some accusations. My heart sank. Let me guess. He said I started the fire for insurance money? She nodded. We take such allegations seriously. I'll need to file a separate report now. After she left, I sat in the darkened restaurant, surrounded by the lingering smell of smoke and broken trust. My phone kept buzzing with messages from confused staff and concerned customers. Dad had worked fast, spreading his poison everywhere. When I finally got home, Zrina, I found Mom on the phone, her expression grim. After she hung up, she told me the mortgage company had called. Dad had contacted them claiming we were illegally occupying the house. They're sending someone to investigate, she sighed. Frank's trying to get us evicted. That night, we barely slept. Every noise outside made us jump. Dad knew where the spare key was hidden. He knew the code to the garage. He knew everything about our lives and was using it against us. The next morning, I went to the restaurant to meet with the staff. I needed to explain what was happening, to counter Dad's lies. Only 3 people showed up, Gary, Carl, and Frances, our longest-serving waitress. The others are scared, Frances explained. Your dad's been offering them jobs at his new place. Most can't afford to turn him down. I understood. Restaurant work was precarious at the best of times. Still, it hurt. We're with you, Gary said firmly. We've seen how your dad's been these past months. The mood swings, the missing money, the pills. Their loyalty meant everything. Together we made a plan to reopen in a limited capacity once the repairs were done. We'd start small, dinner service only, reduced menu. As we were talking, the front window shattered. We all ducked as glass sprayed across the floor. Through the broken window, I saw a brick with a note attached. Last warning. Officer Henderson came to take a report, but like before, he wasn't optimistic. Without witnesses, there's not much we can do. I was cleaning up the glass when my phone rang. It was Eliana, sobbing. Dad's here, she whispered, with some woman. They're taking things from the house. Mom's trying to stop them. I raced home to find the front door wide open. Inside, Dad and a woman I'd never seen were loading boxes into a van. Mom stood in the living room, looking shell-shocked. What are you doing? I demanded. Dad barely glanced at me. Taking what's mine. This is Bobby, by the way, my new business partner. Bobby gave me a cold smile. She was maybe 10 years younger than Dad, expensively dressed, with calculating eyes. Your father's told me all about you, she said sweetly. Such a shame when children turn on their parents. I ignored her, focusing on Dad. You can't just take our things. My things, he corrected. My house, my furniture, my life that you tried to steal. Mom found her voice. Frank, please, think about what you're doing. For a moment, something flickered in Dad's eyes. Doubt, maybe even shame. But then Bobby touched his arm, and his expression hardened again. You made your choice, he said flatly. Now I'm making mine. They left with boxes of our belongings, family photos, heirlooms, even clothes. We stood in the half-empty house, stunned. Who is she? Eliana asked. Mom's voice was hollow. Someone who sees your father as an opportunity. That night, we discovered Dad had shut off our utilities. No electricity, no water, no gas. When Mom called the companies, they all said the same thing. The account holder had requested termination. We stayed with Mom's friend Susan for a few days while we figured out our next steps. I kept going to the restaurant, working with the contractors to repair the fire damage. Every day brought a new challenge. Suppliers refusing deliveries because Mr. Henderson said to cancel. Staff not showing up because they'd been threatened or bribed. Even our regular customers avoiding the place. Dad and Bobby had opened their new restaurant across town, using our recipes, our equipment, even our name with a slight variation. Frank's Place, instead of Henderson Family Restaurant. I later learned that Bobby had invested significant capital and received a 50% partnership stake, an unusually generous arrangement that suggested Dad was desperate for both her money and her business connections. I was at my lowest point when I received an unexpected visitor, Ari, Dad's former business partner from years ago. They'd had a falling out before I was even born, and Dad had always forbidden us from mentioning Ari's name. Your mother called me, Ari explained, looking around the damaged restaurant. She thought I might be able to help. I was skeptical. How? Dad's taken everything. Ari smiled grimly. Not everything, and not legally. Over coffee in the empty dining room, Ari explained that when the restaurant was first opened, it was a partnership between him and Dad. When they split, there was a legal agreement that Dad had apparently never mentioned to any of us. The restaurant isn't solely your father's, Ari said. I still own 20%. I never exercised my rights because I wanted nothing to do with Frank. But now, it wasn't much, but it was something. A legal foothold. With Ari's help, we filed for an emergency injunction to prevent Dad from using the restaurant's name, recipes, or equipment at his new place. Dad's response was swift and vicious. He showed up at the restaurant while I was there alone, closing up after meeting with contractors. You think bringing Ari into this will help you? He snarled, his face inches from mine. You have no idea what you've started. I stood my ground. You started this, Dad, not me. His laugh was cold. You know nothing about business, about survival. I built all this from nothing while you were playing student, and now you're destroying it, I said quietly. Why? Because of pills? Because of pride? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. He grabbed my shirt, pushing me against the wall. You think you're so smart. You think you know me. You don't know anything. For a moment, I thought he might hit me. Instead, he let go suddenly, stepping back. This is your last chance, he said. Drop the injunction. Tell Ari to back off, or I'll make sure none of you have anything left. After he left, I called Mom. We agreed we couldn't back down now. Dad would just keep taking and taking until there was nothing left. The next day, I discovered all the restaurant's equipment had been damaged overnight. Wires cut, pipes broken, even the new stove smashed. The security camera had been disabled. The repairs would cost thousands we didn't have. I was sitting in the ruined kitchen when Gary arrived with coffee and determination. We're not giving up, he said firmly. The staff who stayed loyal, we've been talking. We'll work for free until things get back on track. We can bring equipment from home. Francis has a brother who's a plumber. Carl knows electricians. Their support brought me to tears. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. That hope was tested the next day when we received notice that the health department would be conducting an emergency inspection. Someone had reported dangerous conditions at the restaurant. Your dad's friend is on the health board, Francis explained. He's using every connection he has. We worked around the clock to get the place ready, cleaning every inch, borrowing equipment, making temporary repairs. When the inspector arrived, a bored-looking man named Dominic, he seemed surprised to find everything in order. I was told this place was a disaster, he admitted, checking off his list. It was, I said honestly, but we fixed it. He passed us with minimal citations, much to Dad's obvious frustration. I later heard he'd thrown a fit at his new restaurant when he got the news. Our small victory gave us momentum. We reopened with a limited menu, and to our surprise, customers came. Not many, but enough. Word spread that we were fighting back against Dad's lies. The community began to choose sides. Mom found a small apartment we could afford, and we moved what little we had left. It wasn't home, but it was safe. Dad couldn't shut off the utilities or threaten to evict us. The court date for the injunction was approaching. Dad had hired an expensive lawyer, while we were relying on Mom's friend who was doing it as a favor. I was worried, but Ari seemed confident. Your father's always been sloppy with paperwork, he said. Trust me, there are holes in his story big enough to drive a truck through. 2 days before the hearing, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Bobby. We need to talk, she said, without Frank knowing. I was suspicious, but agreed to meet her at a coffee shop halfway between our restaurants. She arrived looking nervous, constantly checking over her shoulder. Frank's not who you think he is, she said without preamble. He's not who I thought he was either. I waited, not giving her anything. He told me you were the problem, ungrateful, stealing from him, trying to ruin him. I believed him. She looked down at her coffee. But then I saw the pills, and the mood swings, and how he treats people when he thinks no one important is watching. Why are you telling me this? I asked. She slid a flash drive across the table. Because I made a mistake partnering with him, and I want out. This has everything. The real financial records, recordings of him admitting the fire wasn't an accident, plans to damage your equipment. I stared at the small drive. Why would you help me? Because I'm not going down with Frank, she said bluntly. He's dangerous, and he's getting worse. Yesterday he threatened me when I questioned some money that went missing. I'm cutting my losses. I took the drive, not fully trusting her but willing to see what was on it. That night, Mom, Eliana, and I gathered around the laptop. The files were damning. Spreadsheets showing how Dad had been skimming money for years, audio recordings of him bragging about setting up the fire, even a video of him planning the equipment sabotage with someone whose face we couldn't see. "This is it," Mom said quietly. "This is what we needed." The next morning, I went to the restaurant early to prepare for our limited lunch service. As I unlocked the door, I felt someone behind me. Before I could turn, something hard hit the back of my head, and everything went black. I woke up in the storage room, head throbbing, hands tied. Through the door, I could hear Dad's voice, angry and slurred. "Should have minded your own business," he was saying to someone. "Now look what's happening." I tried to move, but the pain made me gasp. The door opened, and Dad stood there, looking wild-eyed and disheveled. "Finally awake," he said. "We need to talk, son." I could smell alcohol and something else on him, that chemical smell I'd come to associate with his pills. "Untie me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He laughed. "Not yet. First, you're going to call your mother and tell her to drop everything. The injunction, the police reports, all of it." "Or what?" I challenged. His smile chilled me. "Or this place has another accident, a worse one, with you in it." I realized then how far gone he was. This wasn't just about the restaurant anymore, or even the money. Something in him had broken. "Dad," I said carefully, "you need help. This isn't you." For a moment, his face softened. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under, the pain." He gestured to his supposedly injured hand. "Every day, just trying to keep it all together." "Then let me help you," I offered. "We can figure this out together." He seemed to consider it, then shook his head. "Too late for that. Make the call." He untied one of my hands and thrust my phone at me. I took it, pretending to dial Mom. Instead, I pressed the emergency button I'd programmed after Dad's earlier threats. I'd set it up to send my location and an SOS message to Gary, Carl, Francis, and Officer Henderson, who had given me his direct number after taking several reports about Dad's escalating behavior. "Mom," I said into the phone, though it wasn't connected to her. "Dad wants me to tell you something." I kept talking, stalling, hoping the silent emergency alert had gone through. Dad paced impatiently, occasionally stopping to take pills from his pocket. "Tell her to drop the injunction," he demanded. I nodded, still pretending to talk to Mom. "He wants you to drop the injunction." Dad grabbed the phone. "Enough games. Let me talk to her." When he realized the phone wasn't connected to a call, his face contorted with rage. He threw the phone against the wall, shattering it. "You think you're clever?" he shouted. "You're just like your mother. Always scheming, always thinking you're smarter than me." He advanced toward me, and I braced myself. But before he could reach me, the storage room door burst open. Gary and Carl stood there, with Officer Henderson behind them. "Frank Henderson," the officer said firmly. "Step away from your son." Dad froze, then laughed bitterly. "Of course, the cavalry arrives." What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Dad reached into his pocket, for pills, I thought, but instead pulled out a small knife. Officer Henderson drew his weapon, shouting for Dad to drop the knife. For a terrible moment, I thought Dad might do something truly unforgivable. But then, looking at the faces around him, something in his expression changed. The knife clattered to the floor, and he sank to his knees, suddenly looking old and broken. "I just wanted what was mine," he whispered. As Officer Henderson handcuffed him, I felt no triumph, only a profound sadness. This was my father, the man who had taught me to ride a bike, who had once carried me on his shoulders at parades, who had dreamed of passing his restaurant to me someday. Now he was being led away, defeated not by me, but by his own demons. As they led Dad away, I slumped against the wall, the adrenaline draining from my body. Gary rushed over to untie my other hand while Carl called Mom. My head was still throbbing from where Dad had hit me. Officer Henderson paused at the door. "We'll need you to come down to the station to give a statement," he said. "When you're ready." I nodded, rubbing my wrists where the rope had dug in. "What's going to happen to him?" Henderson sighed. "Assault, kidnapping, destruction of property for starters. The DA will decide the rest based on the evidence." After he left with Dad, Gary helped me to a chair in the dining room. "Your emergency alert came through to all of us. We were closest." "Thank you," I said, my voice cracking. I don't know what he would have done. Mom and Eliana arrived 20 minutes later, both in tears. Mom hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "I thought we'd lost you," she whispered. "I'm okay," I assured her, though my pounding head suggested otherwise. We went to the police station together. I gave my statement while a paramedic checked my head. Mild concussion, they said. Could have been worse, much worse. The detective interviewing me, Detective Perez, was thorough but kind. She seemed especially interested in the flash drive Bobby had given me. "This could be crucial evidence," she said, bagging it. "We'll need to verify its authenticity, but if it contains what you say it does, your father is facing serious charges." I felt hollow as I signed my statement. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. I should have been in college right now, not watching my father get booked for assaulting me. When we got home to our small apartment, I collapsed on the couch. Mom made tea nobody wanted while Eliana sat silently beside me. The reality of everything was finally hitting us. "What happens now?" Eliana asked, her voice small. Mom sat across from us, looking exhausted but somehow stronger than I'd seen her in years. Now we rebuild, she said simply. The next day, I received a call from Bobby. She sounded panicked. Is it true? Did Frank attack you? Is he in jail? I confirmed it briefly, not wanting to give her details. Listen, you need to be careful. Frank has friends, people who owe him favors. My stomach tightened. What kind of friends? The kind who don't ask questions, she said cryptically. Just watch your back, okay? And the restaurant. Frank was talking about making sure nobody could have it if he couldn't. After hanging up, I called Gary and warned him to keep an eye out for anything suspicious at the restaurant. Then I told Mom about the call. Do you think she's telling the truth? Mom asked, frowning. I shrugged. I don't know, but I'm not taking chances. That afternoon, we met with Ari and our lawyer to discuss the injunction hearing scheduled for the next day. With Dad in custody, we weren't sure how to proceed. His lawyer will still show up, our lawyer explained. And without Frank there to dig his own grave, they might actually present a better case. Ari nodded grimly. Frank's always been his own worst enemy in court. Remember that, Susan? Mom smiled faintly. The zoning dispute. He called the judge an idiot. The memory of Dad's temper almost made me laugh. Almost. We decided to go ahead with the hearing. The evidence on Bobby's flash drive would strengthen our case, assuming the police would share it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every noise made me jump. Around 3 a.m., my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Check the restaurant now. I shot out of bed, heart racing. I called Gary, who lived closest to the restaurant, but got no answer. Then I tried Carl. Nothing. I woke Mom, told her what was happening, and grabbed my keys. I'm coming with you, she insisted, already pulling on a jacket. No, stay with Eliana, I said. Call the police. Tell them to meet me there. The drive to the restaurant was the longest 10 minutes of my life. As I turned the corner onto our street, my heart sank. Smoke was rising from the building, orange flames visible through the windows. I parked across the street as fire trucks arrived, sirens blaring. A firefighter stopped me when I tried to run toward the building. Is anyone inside? He demanded. I don't know, I said, panic rising. My staff might be. They found no one, thankfully. Gary and Carl had both been home asleep, their phones on silent. The fire had started in the kitchen, accelerant used to ensure maximum damage. Arson, plain and simple. I watched numbly as firefighters battled the blaze. By dawn, the restaurant was a charred shell. Everything we'd worked to save, gone. Detective Perez arrived as I was sitting on the curb, staring at the ruins. She sat beside me, her face grim. We got a call from county jail at 2:15 a.m., she said. Your father made a phone call last night to someone named Eugene. We're trying to track him down. I remembered Eugene, the regular customer who'd blocked my path that day. Dad's loyal supporter. He did this, I said, my voice hollow. Dad. He made sure no one could have it. Detective Perez nodded. We'll investigate. In the meantime, is there somewhere safe you and your family can stay? Someone your father doesn't know about? The question sent a chill through me. We went to Ari's house, an hour outside town. He had a guest house we could use while things settled down. Mom was quiet during the drive, staring out the window. I keep thinking about when we first opened the restaurant, she finally said. Frank was so proud. He wanted to build something that would last. Something for you kids. I reached over and squeezed her hand. I know, Mom. The injunction hearing was postponed due to the dramatic change in circumstances, as the court put it. Dad remained in jail, denied bail due to the arson investigation and the risk he posed. A week after the fire, Detective Perez called with news. They'd arrested Eugene for arson. He'd confessed immediately, explaining that Dad had promised him a partnership in the new restaurant if he took care of a problem. Eugene had been struggling financially and was easily manipulated by Dad's promises of a better future. Eugene says Frank told him to scare you, not burn the place down, Perez explained. But Eugene got carried away, wanted to impress him. I laughed bitterly. That sounds like Dad, making other people do his dirty work. The insurance company was investigating the fire as well. With the restaurant destroyed, Dad's new place was still operating, using our name, our recipes, our reputation. Without the injunction, we couldn't stop him. Bobby called again, this time sounding more businesslike. I want out completely, she said. I'll sign over my part of Frank's place to you if you drop any potential claims against me. I was suspicious. Why would you do that? Because I'm not going down with Frank, she said bluntly. The cops are looking at me for the arson. I need to distance myself. I discussed it with Mom and Ari. It seemed too good to be true, but our lawyer thought it was worth pursuing. If we could get control of Dad's new restaurant, we'd at least have something to rebuild from. The next day, we met Bobby at our lawyer's office. She looked nervous, but determined. Frank's been calling me from jail, she explained as she signed the papers, threatening me, saying I betrayed him. She looked up at me. He's not well. I don't think he ever was. With Bobby's shares and Ari's original 20% ownership, we now controlled 70% of the business. Dad's lawyer fought it, of course, but the paperwork was solid. The restaurant was legally ours. When I walked into Frank's place for the first time as an owner, it felt surreal. Dad had recreated our family restaurant in detail, down to the placement of tables and the pictures on the walls, pictures of our family in happier times. The staff were understandably confused. Many had come from our original restaurant, lured by Dad's promises and money. I called a meeting to explain the situation. I'm not here to fire anyone, I assured them. I'm here to rebuild what my father destroyed. If you want to be part of that, great. If not, I understand. Most stayed. Some even apologized for believing Dad's lies. I didn't hold it against them. Dad could be very convincing when he wanted to be. Over the next few weeks, we slowly transformed Frank's place back into Henderson Family Restaurant. We rehired Gary, Carl, Francis, and the other loyal staff who'd stood by us. Business was slow at first, the community confused by all the changes, but it gradually picked up. Mom took over the books, implementing proper systems to prevent the kind of skimming Dad had done for years. Eliana started working weekends, showing a surprising talent for the business, and I found myself falling into the role of manager more naturally than I'd expected. 1 month after taking over, I received a letter from my college. My deferment was ending, and they wanted to know my plans for the upcoming semester. I stared at it for a long time, emotions swirling. That night, I talked it over with Mom. We sat at our small kitchen table in Ari's guest house, the letter between us. "You should go," she said firmly. "That's what all this was for." I shook my head. "I can't leave you to deal with everything. The restaurant, the legal stuff with Dad, rebuilding our lives." Mom reached for my hand. "Honey, the restaurant is stable now. The legal issues will take time no matter what. And our lives?" She smiled. "We're already rebuilding." I wasn't convinced. "What about money?" "Dad took everything." "Not everything," she said. "The insurance settlement from the fire will come through eventually, and the restaurant is turning a profit again. We'll figure it out." 2 days later, I visited Dad in jail. I hadn't planned to, but something pulled me there. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I just needed to understand. He looked smaller. Somehow, his usual confidence gone. When he saw me, his eyes lit up briefly before clouding with shame. "I didn't think you'd come," he said as we sat across from each other. "Neither did I admitted. We sat in awkward silence for a moment. Then Dad cleared his throat. "How's the restaurant?" "Good," I said. "Busy." He nodded, looking down at his hands. The same hands that had supposedly been injured, that had hit me, that had built and destroyed so much. "I never meant for it to go this far," he said quietly. "The pills, they changed me, made me paranoid, made me think everyone was against me." I didn't respond. I'd heard this before, the beginning of an apology that would turn into justification. But Dad surprised me. "There's no excuse for what I did to you, to your mother and sister. I destroyed everything because I couldn't admit I needed help." His voice broke, and for the first time in my life, I saw my father cry. Not the manipulative tears he'd used when he wanted something, but real, broken sobs. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am." I sat there, watching him crumble, feeling nothing but a dull ache. "You're right," I finally said. "It doesn't fix anything." I stood to leave, but paused. "I'm going back to college next month. Mom and Eliana are going to run the restaurant." Dad wiped his eyes, nodding. "That's good. That's what should have happened from the beginning." As I turned to go, he called after me. "Son, I'm proud of you, for standing up to me, for saving what I tried to destroy." I didn't turn back. I couldn't. Those words would have meant everything once. Now they were just words. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Mom and I worked out a business plan for the restaurant. Eliana would help part-time while finishing high school. Ari offered to step in as needed, and Gary would be promoted to manager, overseeing daily operations. The insurance company finally settled our claim for the original restaurant. It wasn't as much as we'd hoped, but it was enough to pay for my first year of college and put a down payment on a small house for Mom and Eliana. Dad's trial was scheduled for after I left for school. He'd pleaded guilty to most charges, hoping for leniency. The prosecutor believed he'd serve at least 5 years. Part of me felt he deserved more, but another part just wanted it all to be over. The night before I left for college, we had a small celebration at the restaurant. The staff, Ari, even some loyal customers came to wish me well. Mom made a speech that had everyone in tears, talking about perseverance and new beginnings. As I looked around at the faces of people who'd stood by us through everything, I felt a weight lifting. Dad had tried to destroy us, to control us through fear and manipulation. He'd nearly succeeded, but in the end, he'd only made us stronger. The next morning, Mom and Eliana drove me to campus. It felt surreal walking through the gates I'd dreamed of for so long, carrying boxes to my dorm room, saying goodbye to my family. "Call us every day," Eliana demanded, hugging me fiercely. "Every week," I countered, ruffling her hair. Mom held me longest, her eyes wet, but her smile genuine. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered, "for everything." As I watched them drive away, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness for what we'd lost, relief to finally be where I belonged, and something unexpected, a sense of gratitude for the strength we'd found in each other. That night, as I unpacked in my dorm room, I found a small box I didn't recognize tucked into one of my bags. Inside was a set of keys with a note in Mom's handwriting. "For when you come home, the restaurant will always be yours too." I smiled, hanging the keys on my desk lamp where I could see them every day. A reminder of where I'd been and what I'd overcome. A reminder that sometimes you have to fight for what's yours, even against the people who should be fighting for you. My roommate popped his head in, breaking my thoughts. "Hey, some of us are heading to the dining hall. Want to come?" I pocketed my phone, glancing one last time at the keys glinting in the lamplight. "Yeah," I said. "I'm coming."